Story time. Once upon a time, I did work on a offshore oil rig. It was built in Lévis, Quebec. I was part of that build. I was the night security while it was being built. It was a three-legged jackup, and but before I was able to get that job, I had to take a MED course, a Marine Emergency Duty course in Summerside, PEI. I might have mentioned it already in the videos. And it was about learning how to fight fires, extensive first aid course, and survival in the ocean, at sea. It was a 3-week course. I passed. Yay! Good job. So I was working for a company called Crosby Offshore. Everybody remembers that politician Crosby. I can't remember if he was Liberals, Conservative, NDP, I don't know. I don't remember. But Crosby, everybody remembers Crosby. He's from the Maritimes. And he owned a company. Politician owning a company. Not a big deal, I guess. Anyway, I digest. So, as they were putting up the legs, 3 legs, they would raise it up. And they would put another 3 legs and they'd raise it up. Eventually, the crane on the barge, because it was a barge, would be the ones putting on the legs because the crane was so high. And I am afraid of heights. I do not like heights. Anyone that knows me knows that. So here I am, way up in the freaking sky. Not a happy camper, but it's a job. Good job. And like I said, at that time I was night security, fire watch, whatever needed to be done at the time. But when I needed to come down, you had to get in a personnel basket, cage. I'm telling you, talk about changing my underwear on the way down. Now, did that a few times, so I kind of got used to the height, kind of. Not really, but kind of. So, the barge got finished. We were on tow. They got out some sea tugs, or it could have been lake tugs at that time. Who knows? I can't remember that particular time. But they would tow us, 2 tugs. They would tow us from Lévis, Quebec, to the coast of PEI. That's where we started our first drilling. I think it was about 18 miles just off of the coast of PEI. And the way it goes is 21 days on, 21 days off. And I had worked at the graveyard shift. I was in charge of fire watch while people were working and sleeping, because there was, like I said, there was 52 people on board, and half would be working the night shift, the other half would be working the day shift. 24 hours going, 24 hours. So, like I said, I was part of fire watch, and I would help in the galley, and I would do laundry for everybody. Had to get done. And eventually I learned I helped the chef prepare breakfast in the mornings, and eventually I did the breakfast in the mornings while he was baking breads or whatever. I did the bacon, the eggs, the sausage, all that stuff. Steaks sometimes if they wanted steak. So I would take care of that part while he took care of the baking. I'm not a baker. So we did our thing in PEI, we finished up. And, not quite finished up. like I said, 21 days on, 21 days off. The guy that was supposed to replace me, he wasn't able to replace me. Something happened. So they had to find a person to replace him, to replace me. And that took time. So I was on for another 21 days. That was a long stretch. So when we finished up there, we went to the Bay of Fundy. Beautiful, beautiful, foggy, fog, thick, cut it out. And the tides were amazing, where the tide would go up and down. And it was well, I shouldn't say non-eventful, but I ended up going to shore because medical reasons, where I spent the next night, went to the hospital. The doctor wanted to see me the following day. So I got to spend a night in Halifax. So, but after I got back on, and again, they had to lower me down to a small little fishing boat by personnel in that cage, which was not fun. Crane operator had a little bit of fun with me. He knew I didn't like it, so he had fun. Tricky. And so then, after we were done the Bay of Fundy, we were getting on a ship. It was called the Mighty Serpent. And what it did, it was submerged. The tugs would place us on top of its deck, roughly, and then it would get rid of all the water and come up, and away we go. It was like I think a 4 or 5 day trip, the most, 8 days, and they didn't need a whole lot of staff at that time, so it was probably the end of the job until the Mighty Serpent took on water. It took on water in the electrical room when it was submerged, and they had to pull us off, and new plan came into effect. We had 2 sea tugs. I can't remember their names. Oh, Miami Serpent? Something like that. I can't. At my age, memory goes from time to time. Miami something. But anyhow, 2 sea tugs. So what could have happened, what should have taken 3 or 4 days, ended up taking 3 weeks, pretty well 3 weeks. You don't pull a barge very fast. And it was around, I guess, September. And we had a bunch of old Newfoundlanders on there, Newfies. And they were old sea boys. And when they found out that we were going to go from Bay of Fundy to Cameron, Louisiana, which up the Gulf of around the Keys, up the Gulf of Mexico, they said, "See ya." They didn't want no part of it. I have no idea. I'm a city guy. What do I know about the ocean and the time of day, year, and all that stuff? I'm a city guy. But they left. They said nope. They didn't want to be any part of it. Money was good, but no. I should have listened to them though. So sure enough, on we go. 2 tugs towing us away, towing us down the East Coast. And my job changed a little bit. On the oil rig, there's certain whistles, honks or whatever whistles, would indicate what it was for. I had mine. That was my sound. Whenever I heard it, that was mine. And that job, when it went off, was to make sure that all the portholes, all the dogs or doggies, they call them, or portholes, and everything would be sealed. All the doors would be sealed. And at that time when we were being towed, our legs were up in the air. 3 legs were in the air. Well, sure enough, we ran into some rough weather, and they state this very clearly. If you're going to get into rough weather in the sea, it's always at night. And it's true. It starts at nighttime, always. I'm awake, because that's my shift. So I get my whistle, and I said, okay. And at that time, there wasn't 52 of us. I think at that time, there was probably about 20 of us. Maybe about that, maybe a little less. Because we weren't drilling. We were just cleaning and getting things ready for when we get to the States. And our barge master, which we call a captain, but he's a barge master, he was from the States, a young guy. I won't say too much because it'll probably get me into trouble. But anyhow, company man, 100% company man. And sure enough, this rough seas, we broke our tow line on one of the tugs. So we got into some really rough seas, really rough seas. And we were told to get in our preparation area. So we'd have our survival suits on and everything. We'd get in the staging area to go into our life capsule. It was called the Whitaker. That was our life capsule. And it pumped water. It had a little motor drove it. In case of fire, it would keep it cool because it pumped water and you could drive through it. So, but we were in a staging area. And the seas were really, really rough. We had a heliport, and our heliport was 65 feet above the water line. About roughly 65 feet above the water line. And I went up to the bridge where I usually go anyhow because I knew the radio operator pretty well. That's why I remember our call signs, Whiskey, Kilo, Papa, Zulu. For some reason that stuck in my head. I don't know why. And the barge master, captain, was up there and he said, "What are you doing up here?" I said, "I'm just trying to know what's going on. The men at the bottom, the men in the stage area want to know what's going on. Are we getting off this thing or not?" And he said, "No." So while I was up there, I could see the water as the barge was going up and down. You could see the water taking. The heliport was literally taking on water. You know, so that's how bad it was. And we were pulling the tug backwards because there was no way they were able to pull us forward because of the waves. So we were literally pulling the tug backward. So the tug that broke the tow line, he got behind us, now in front of us, but he got behind us. And we had to put our legs down because then at that point we were top heavy. We had trouble with one leg, so we had to send a crew out there, 3 guys, both harnessed, wired up big time because life jackets, suits, a whole 9 yards, because he could have easily gone overboard. So sure enough, they fixed it. They got it down, the legs down. Just as we got the legs down, the tugboat on its sonar picked up a ship or a boat or something on the bottom of the sea, on the ocean floor, and he was afraid our legs were going to hit it. So our legs had to go back up again. So now we're back to being top heavy again. So it was a good, I'd say good 24 hours at least of this. And it turns out that the barge master, captain, he wasn't calling the shots like he claimed he was. It was the skipper on the tugboats. He was calling the shots. And when we broke tow lines, and we broke tow lines quite a bit, you should see how these guys work. Phenomenal. Like, to get close to a barge, and close enough while it's still moving up and down to an extent, to throw a line, to pull another line to get towed again, and how close, and the heliport's right there. So we had to watch that heliport as it would dip down. What a show. This guy was a pro. And that happened a few times. So it became a really interesting thing to watch. Keep in mind, this was before cameras and video, well, not cameras, but video cams and telephones, smartphones. This was before that. It might have been out, but none of the guys I worked with could afford one. So we made good money at the time. So we ended up going up the Gulf of Mexico, around the Florida Keys, up the Gulf of Mexico. It was beautiful. Moon was so bright, like so full. I think you could almost touch it. And got to Cameron, Louisiana, which small boat pulled alongside. Everybody got on board, but we were told we got to get through customs. And one other story I forgot to mention. I'm not going to say where this guy was from because it wouldn't be fair. But he brought enough pot along for about 3 or 4 days. Well, when it turned out to be three weeks, guess what happened? He ran out of pot. And a supply boat would pull alongside us, a small supply boat would pull alongside us to give us our rations like bread or milk or whatever. And he jumped on board. He literally jumped off the oil rig and jumped on board. And don't forget, we weren't that high up. I mean, we were sitting in the water at that time. And the police were waiting for him at the end. And they held him in the cell. And the next day, they put him on a plane and sent him back to Canada. Not one of our finest moments, but wasn't me. And we got to Cameron, Louisiana, and we were told, very carefully we're told, just say yes sir, no sir, that's it. Don't say anything else. So sure enough, we get to customs, then immigration, and that took 3 hours. And they kept asking, are you sure you're Canadian? Are you sure you're Canadian? Well, one guy kind of lost it. Don't forget, we spent 3 weeks out there. One guy was losing his marbles. And so we had to pull him aside and say, look. And they already told us, if you don't want to cooperate, we'll keep you here right till the point where your plane is leaving and you'll get on it. You won't. Because we were going to go to Atlanta. From Cameron, Louisiana, we were going to go to Atlanta, get on a plane, and go our merry way. And we got through customs and immigration. And then it was time we got on a bus. And of course, the first thing the guys wanted was booze. That was the first thing they wanted, was booze. I didn't care for that. I'm not much of a drinker at that time. So the bus driver said, sure. And in that part of the States, you could get booze anywhere, like Quebec, you can get it anywhere. Well, these guys, don't forget, they've been dry for 3 weeks. Maybe a little longer at times, but they were hammered. Fights were breaking out on the bus. Me, I was talking to the bus driver all the way. And so we got a hotel room. The company booked us a hotel room. So I went in, because I was the only sober one, or at least I think I was. And sure enough, they couldn't find our reservations. For the life of them, they couldn't find it. So I said to them, you better do something. Well, I'm sorry, sir, we can't really do anything for you. And I said, do you know even how many guys are on that bus, and they're all drunk, and they're all going to be coming in here looking for their keys for their room, and you're going to tell them what? So sure enough, as soon as I said that, the guys started walking in. And right away, he was like, here you go, sir. Here you go, sir. Here you go, sir. We'll figure it out later. Thank you. Good idea. Here you go, sir. That was funny. Meanwhile, I spent my night, and then the guys got showered. They head out to the bars or whatever. And I spent my night at the airport trying to get my ticket changed because they were going to send us back to Halifax. I wanted to go back to Montreal. Or I wanted to go to Montreal, even though I left from Halifax. And so yeah, that's my life story of working on an oil rig. It was quite interesting. I tried to get back on the other rigs, but it really is who you know. It doesn't matter what kind of, it doesn't matter who you are, it's really who you know. Anyhow, it's a bit long video, but have a good day. Be safe, everyone. Thanks for, bye.